Clay, I don't know what they were thinking. Serializing the show, fine. Creating a new villain, fine. Making Archer angry, fine. Rappelling down rocks, fine. It's bad for Mayweather, but it's fine in general. What were they thinking with remixing the song? I don't know if I'm going to spoil something early here and just say that the theme song remix is the worst part of this episode, but I was appalled. I haven't heard that version in so long, and it makes a bad song worse somehow. It's like I was just getting into Stockholm Syndrome level with the original version, and then this one came out, and it sounds like a Bahamian cruise music that you would listen into, and it's really something.
Well, they just, they're retooling the series and taking it in a new direction, and they just wanted to make sure that the song was even more unsuitable for the show that they're producing than it was originally. Like, could you imagine if they, at the start of the Dominion War, they did like a smooth jazz remix of
a Who's the Boss version with like Cisco popping up out of his office and stuff. It's listener Kyle mentioned in the Discord, but the biggest thing about it's not that jarring here yet, but they will get to a point where some like really like darker stuff is happening, and then the theme song comes on, and it's just like, hey everybody, yeah, come on, let's fly to space. It's like, what the fuck? They as a drummer, the thing that changes most for the opening song for me is that they got rid of the arena rock drum song sound, and they've replaced it with like and that's really what sells the song, is that sort of arena rock heavy tom stuff. And instead it's just kind of like a top 40 rim click, like 4 on the floor pitter patter thing, and it's like, this is awful. This is not exactly what I want to listen to at this point.
Yeah, the tone of the original one, at least, that arena rock kind of thing fits the scope sort of what they're going for with the show.
Yeah.
But this Full House remix is not working for it's, they do this Full House style, sitcom-y version, and then they cut immediately to like angry Archer. There's no time to get from anybody.
Reed, I'd like to explain to you, Reed, the whole setup for this season, motherfucker. All right.
I've got faith of the heart.
Let's get into it.
That dude blind me.
We're here with the Xindi. It's the next episode. It's the first episode of the third season, but we'll say that again after this break. We're going to take a break, play a clip from the episode, and then we'll come back and we'll break down the season opener for Enterprise's third season.
And it is safe to enter orbit. There are no security considerations.
He didn't mention any.
With all due respect, sir, we should approach with caution. The freighter captain was of questionable character.
Where are we, Malcolm?
Sir?
This room, what did it used to be?
Storage base, conduit housings, I believe.
But it got retrofitted. Starfleet went to a lot of trouble to turn it into our new command center. Why is that, Malcolm?
Because of our mission, sir.
To find the Xindi, right?
Right.
So this state-of-the-art equipment was put in here to help us gather all the pieces of the puzzle. Figure out who's trying to destroy Earth.
Right.
6 weeks. We've been in this expanse for 6 weeks. What data have we gathered? What pieces of the puzzle have we started to put together? Not a single one.
So, The Xindi is the first episode of the third season. As I said previously, it aired on September 10th, 2003. Almost made the anniversary of September 11th. The Xindi Crisis, it's 2 of 28. We've got 26 left to go. Written by Rick Berman and Brannon Braga, directed by Ellen Croker. In-universe date is unknown, but it's 2153.
Really? Did Berman wrote this? I couldn't tell.
He came in at the last 10 minutes of the writing session and said, guys, let's put a tag on this sumbitch. We can't start there, can we? Is that the place? Let me at least say what the description of the episode is before we get into it. This episode, 6 weeks into the Delphic Expanse, the crew is tipped off by a freighter captain who knows a lone Xindi working on a remote mining colony. Do you want to start with T'Pol? I had a lead-in I had planned, but we can go with T'Pol if you want.
No, we can save that if you want. My lead-in is I'm going to be straight with everybody. The Xindi seem real silly.
I was going to open with the Xindi, so that's a good place to go. So here's how I was going to plan on opening that. Clay, you're in charge of writing Enterprise's third season. And you have to come up with an enemy that we're going to be battling against. We've got a name. They're called the Xindi, but you have to create what they are. And keep in mind, your sister show, DS9, just ended, which had a new enemy that was called the Dominion, which was a collection of species that were enemies of the Federation.
This is totally different now because they're all technically the same species.
So that's kind of the setup. I don't really have a good question off of that, but I will ask you, do you think, and judging by the fact that you kind of came out earlier, you don't, but do you think they did an okay job of, in the limited capacity that they do, setting up the Xindi in this episode?
No.
Okay. So why is that?
I was a little confused by what they were arguing about in the first scene, because they were...
Cold Open opens with a discussion and an argument amongst the Xindi species.
They seem to be fairly unaware of why the humans would be sending a ship out to get them. They don't know who launched the probe, which, I mean, fine. I guess that's the story they're doing, I guess.
They know they launched the probe. They don't know what this ship is doing in their space, because they would not know how it got there in the first place. And they think it's the beginnings of an invasion is their concern.
So do they or don't they know that the probe cut off circumcised Florida?
They do. They know that. They did that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why they're so surprised.
They're surprised because, like Kyle said, the future guy was the only way that they would know, Enterprise would know where they came from. Gotcha. So they're not sure how Enterprise found them so quickly.
Sure. Yeah, I found it real difficult to take them seriously right off the bat when your cabal of bad guys
includes a manatee,
a giant insect person, and like a werewolf. And then halfway through, they pan over to the cast of The Shape of Water is there.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know. They're going to have to sell this to me a little bit harder than especially because when it's like, they're all the same species, but they don't, like, I don't hate that idea.
It's a big focus of the episode too. It's like a running plot to uncover what they are. Yeah. At
the very least, it's nice to get some, cultural
heterodoxy or whatever you'd say.
Instead of just like, well, no, the Klingons only look like this, and they only seem to look like, or the Romulans or the Vulcans or whatever.
Yeah, there's no Asian Klingons or anything like that. There's no variety that you'd see in humans.
But I don't know. I'm a little bit shocked that they just give them to you so quick right off the bat. I mean, I would be disappointed if they kept it a secret and then they were like, hey, bug guys. But I'm not really sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Xindi are going to be a tough sell for me so far based off this one episode.
They do look goofy. The CG of the era is a tough sell at this point too, because I think the bugs are completely CG. So there's the bug Xindi, there's reptile Xindi, there's monkey Xindi, there's human Xindi, and then there's manatee Xindi are the five.
It felt like a Rick and Morty scene.
Yeah.
With all the weird, different, silly alien. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, continue.
They're arguing. So I would say that this group is somewhat disturbingly similar to the Dominion in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways that I go like, why are they so similar?
They got one guy that almost looks like a Jem'Hadar. He actually looks closer to the he actually looks closer to the bad guy from Galaxy Quest, which I feel like we've mentioned that about somebody before.
We did, but yeah. The episode where Trip gets stuck on Dawn, where he's stuck on the planet with that other alien. It's the Darmok Enterprise episode.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. They're a little bit similar to the Dominion. Not crazy about that. I don't mind the variety of species thing. Mm-hmm. It feels like small potatoes. It feels like a difference without distinction without a difference when they are the same species, but they look different from each other. It's like, okay, I guess in my mind, they're still all very different and they might as well just be Dominion species. Mm-hmm. We don't really have an idea of what their ethos is in the way that we understand the Dominion, which can come in and do whatever. The one thing that they have shown is that the Xindi argue with each other in a way that the Dominion might have argued with each other, where it's like the Jem'Hadar and the Vorta don't like each other because they're vying for the favor, the prophets in their mind. The Xindi are less religiously minded, but they don't seem to get along with each other, and the species bicker about the best ways to do things with each other. I think that's really the only thing that you get out of the Xindi in this episode, because it's not focused on them and you don't spend a great deal of time with them, but they are goofy looking, and they definitely need to do something to add some distinction from the Dominion. That would be my hint to what Enterprise needs to do. And obviously this is the first episode. There's plenty of time.
Yeah, that first scene I didn't really get much out of it as a first introduction to these guys, other than this idea that they don't know how the humans could have figured it out so quickly. You would think that if you're going to give your bad guy that much room right up front, you would establish what they're about a little bit more.
It was very intentional to put them. Braga said that they wanted to drop the audience right in with the Xindi to just see what they are, as like a surprise that you meet them.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But like, what did we learn from this?
Right.
What purpose did it serve to do this, other than just to show what they look like?
To me, it's a little bit out of place, because you've assumed that the show, if it's airing in real time, has been off air for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. And you would think that you almost need the Archer scene to set the table for you, to like remind you of what's going on in this show. We're coming right into it from the last episode that we watched a couple days ago, but in real world terms, there's like a couple months that would have aired, or a couple months would have taken place between these two. And as you were talking about, it's confusing because the Xindi don't know about Future Guy. So their confusion is a little bit strange if you have not seen the show in a while, but it makes more sense if Archer were able to remind the audience about that. Because Archer has that scene after you see the Xindi. I would have just flipped it, where Archer lays out the entire premise of the season, like why they're out there, and he's yelling at Reed about it.
That was my favorite, kind of ironically, my favorite scene of the episode, because like all of the exposition you don't get in that Xindi scene, they give you in that one, where he's like, look at this room. Doesn't this room look new, like you've never seen it before?
He rhetorically asks what you do. What do we do in this room?
This room used to be another room, but it got retrofitted, so now it's a command station. What does this room do, Reed? I'll tell you what it does. Yep. Like, okay, nice. They have a new command center that they built onto the set. Good, I know how that works now. Like, they didn't have anybody doing that with the Xindi. It was just them being like, how did they know? Did somebody leave their keys behind?
Reed, we didn't purchase 27 13-inch monitors for no reason. Why, Reed, did we do that and put them in this room? You tell me. It is silly. I know that it's hard to fix that scene to make it not clunky, but I would have just had Archer first before the cold open, and then Xindi after that, to remind you, oh yeah, Enterprise is out here looking for these guys. Oh, this is these guys, and go from there, I think. Yeah,
coming out, like you're saying, coming into it after a couple months off, and I mean, you get the previously on thing. Yeah. So maybe that's enough. Because I've found that those things they usually cut those things well, and I'm not just saying for this show, but like generally, they tend to cut those things well enough that you know what the focuses of the episode is going to be. Like the one that always killed me was on Buffy, when they would do those previously on Buffy the Vampire things. Like 5 or 6 seasons in, depending on the stuff that they showed you, you could basically parse out what the plot was going to be about.
Who's the focus?
Like, yeah. Oh, that person who hasn't been around since season 3. That person. Okay, I see. We're doing this thing. Okay, so those things are going to kind of come together. So it's they give you what you need.
They do.
But yeah, it's really strange to me that you'd spend that much time. They kind of bookend the episode, right? The Xindi, isn't there?
They do. They're the final scene. Yep.
Yeah. I honestly don't remember what happens in that final scene, but
I think it's just they talk again about they can't figure out what's going on, and then the bug says, if you don't do something, I'm going to do something, and then it cuts to black.
Sure.
Yeah. Again, it's just showing that they fight, like that they disagree with each other.
They don't even. Do they even have like a line where someone's like, exposition wise, as clunky as it might be, say like, we didn't send that probe to Earth for our intentions, insert your intentions here.
No,
for them to just figure out, like, it seems like you would get something like that, but they really don't.
They haven't. They did. Well, their intentions, from the last episode are that they think they're going to be destroyed by Earth in 400 years. So they're preemptively trying to destroy Earth so that doesn't happen. It has it ties into the plot later where they send them to that planet. Xindi sends them to that planet that's destroyed, and it happened in the past.
I can't wait.
They're confused
I can't wait till we meet Xindi. She seems lovely.
We'll get to the Xindi.
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
We'll get to the Xindi planet eventually. My general takeaway of this episode is that I thought it was like a extremely well executed Enterprise episode. It felt remarkably to me like Broken Bow, and down to like them going to a new area. They go to a seedy bar type scene, which happens in Broken Bow, and they talk to the locals, and they're wearing their away jackets that they haven't worn in forever. And it felt like the series was really rebooting itself. But it's also just an action episode that Enterprise loves to do. It doesn't have a tremendous amount to say, but I thought it was way better executed than some of the previous action episodes that they've done. Even Regeneration, the Borg episode, which we liked, I thought this was just better in the sense of like the way that they worked and it is the Makos, the way they worked the Makos into the plot felt like natural, and it wasn't shoehorned in as like, remember, we're here, we got to do something. The way that Archer gets imprisoned felt like that was very Archer-like, but it also causes like this nice cascade of the ship knows that the warships are coming and they've got to get them out of there. And there's the sequence of crawling up through the plasma vents. It just worked in a way that a lot of Enterprise episodes don't for me. And it's high praise for what I think is kind of an average episode. But I thought that it feels like the show is finally understanding at least how to make an episode of the show that it thinks it is at this point.
Yeah, it didn't have any of the ham-fisted or questionable stuff that you see in the previous seasons, like the one with the Al from where they have to break out of the prison.
Oh,
damn it!
I know the one with the
one where Reed comes down in camouflage, dressed like one of the aliens.
From the guy from Quantum Leap. You're talking about that? Yeah, that episode.
Yeah. Where we were like, how did 4 people shoot the one guard who was around this place? Like I felt like the situation in this one felt more believable than they've done that stuff in the past. And having those I don't know where the Makos dropped in from on those wires, but aside from that,
they didn't come in fast either.
Aren't they like 80 floors down or something? I can't. Maybe they brought them up to the surface at that point. I can't remember. But.
It was a soft rappel down too. It was just they drop into the background and start shooting. But
I was just gonna say, I thought that stuff was pretty well done. I actually really liked the concept of the Makos being on the ship.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, because I hope that they do something interesting with them. I hope that they create some sort of tension on the ship as far as their practices go and their methods go. It seems like they might do that, although Reed seems to be converted pretty quickly by the end of this episode. He's like, well, I guess I was wrong. These guys are awesome.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
But it gave Reed something to do, at least. It is, their presence early on, even if they're not antagonistic, because they are subservient to the officers on the ship, like they're lower ranking than everybody else. They're a civilian military unit, I guess, or whatever. I just like that it gave fucking Reed something to do, to have an opinion about something. It was like, seems like this is an accomplishment for this show. But I did like them. I like that they were hyper competent in this, and it just seems like it's a nice, it is a nice potential rival faction to have on the series when you're so far from home. To have a military group on the ship as well, it's neat. It's as opposed to the temporal war setup of Broken Bow. I can understand what you can do with a group of soldiers on the ship, and it's like there's clarity to the storyline, which is what I appreciate about it.
Yeah, and going into it, you instantly know what the conflict there is going to be, because Enterprise is more of an exploratory vessel that isn't really... Enterprise is the symbol of Starfleet and your idea of what Starfleet is, and then these guys are just military dudes. Yeah. And so you're going to see where those things clash. I think it's a better... It's funny. I wish Discovery could have taken a couple lessons from this, where you can introduce these concepts without one of them seeming like they're cartoonishly evil. Because
they're actually realistic, you mean? Yeah, so there's like a nuance to the position.
Yeah, because everything that's evil in Discovery, every shady evil group like Section 31 or whatever is in that bubble, they're always like cartoonishly evil, and there's no reason why you would ever trust these guys.
Yep.
Whereas here, it's like these guys, they seem like they're normal dudes who have a different ethos, and that's going to create some conflict. And
they save the day. To ingratiate themselves.
And they get the job done. They do what they had to do, and nobody got killed. Yeah. I'm still waiting. No one on the show has gotten killed. Like, not even like a side character has gotten killed.
Someone died. Didn't we have an episode with the first death? I thought we brought it up. In the second season, it happens really late, I thought. I can't remember who it is, though. It's not a named person. Anyway, you know how they show the Makos are good? When the female Mako gets knocked down, and she's on the ground, and the guy's got his, like, gun above her ready to bash her brains out or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's not a character who shoots that guy. She just fights him off from the ground, and you're like, oh, so it's like, that was not the way I expected. Enterprise in seasons 1 and 2 would have had that guy get shot in the back by Archer, right? And he would have been like, hey, Mako, and then ran off and killed another guy or whatever. But this is I thought the writing was better in this. Not that the episode did anything spectacular, but it felt like the show had a purpose and a drive to it in a way that it's felt meandering for the past season or whatever.
Well, I mean, the thing that they're after is fairly it's one of those things where it's like, they're looking for coordinates, but the place they're getting the coordinates from is questionable at best. So, like, what are the chances this guy's telling the truth? But they have to take a chance because they're so deep into the expanse there.
Got nothing else going. Got to sell this guy some melted down engine liquid.
Yeah, and so the combination of needing that information plus this other guy desperately wanted to get out of there, plus them being locked in by Immortan Joe and his crew of Banes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are very. Is there a bigger bigotry in Hollywood than people on respirators or asthmatics? Because anyone who has a breathing problem is the most evil son of a bitch you're ever going to run into.
Yes, yeah. As someone with a sleep apnea machine, I know how evil it sounds every time I go to sleep now.
They are very Bane-ish, though. They look exactly like Bane.
Once I toss that thing on. But that guy, the guy who played that Immortan Joe looking guy, he's been on Star Trek a couple times. I know him as low rent Lance Henriksen. He's good every time he shows up, but all I can think of is it's like Lance Henriksen, but they couldn't get Lance Henriksen, so they got that guy.
That's Keswick is the alien the alien foreman. I guess he doesn't have a name, but he is.
Does he play a Vorta or something?
No, he's Vreenak in Pale Moonlight. He's the Romulan that goes, it's a fake.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the setup for the action seemed a lot smoother than it usually is.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Like, even the way they get out, they're climbing up that plasma thing, and then they figure out they're climbing up the plasma thing, so they turn the plasma on, so they got to go down, and they get captured. Like, they all felt fairly natural and organic to the story they were doing. It didn't feel like let's have Reed have cosmetic surgery to look like one of these guys, so he can go down and help them break out by blowing up a wall or something. I was actually in the scene with Reed and the Makos, where Reed was kind of like upset about their methods or something. That was the first thing I thought of. It's like, oh, he's just mad because he doesn't get to play dress up and go down and help.
Yeah, there could be that. Reed always struck me as he's not a soldier. He's from a family of officers. That distinction. He went to West Point basically, and these guys are the actual getting their hands in the dirt and getting stuff done, and he has like a personal jealousy or something for it.
What's actually kind of funny is these guys feel like they could play the role that I wished Reed had played in the first two seasons, of the guy who is not totally on track with the Starfleet agenda and is a little bit more military minded. Like
basically, a watered down Section 31. Sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Sort of ideology. Yeah. Yeah,
like if you, it's a shame that he got so little screen time when they created this character, but like Idris Elba's character from Star Trek Beyond, I find could have been a very interesting character for the era that he is supposed to be from, which is this one, right?
Yeah, he is. I might be wrong, but I think he is supposed to be on the Enterprise at this point. You never see him, obviously, but he is part of these Makos on this ship as part of the Beyond setup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
A couple of the other Makos stood out to me because one of them is Daniel Day Kim from Lost and most recently the most recent Hellboy movie they made.
Yeah, he's D Chang. If you want to remember these Mako names, he's D Chang.
And the leader of the Makos, Stephen something, I can't remember what his last name is.
Scott McDonald?
No, it's Stephen something. The actor's name is Stephen.
I'm looking. I don't see anything. He's the leader of the Makos.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Oh, that's not him, obviously. Oh, Stephen Culp.
Yes, Stephen Culp is the. He is from. I know him from Jason Goes to Hell, as a very creepy, sleazy tabloid news guy.
He was on Jag and Desperate Housewives in 13 Days too, and I guess and everything that you've mentioned here. So he's had quite a career.
Much like the guy who plays Morton Joe. He's one of those guys who like kind of looks like a couple different actors.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of TV, but he's never really.
Give me someone who looks like Lance Henriksen.
Yeah. No offense, Stephen.
Here he is. Yeah, I think Vreenak was a better. I actually didn't like the alien foreman, I guess as he's called here. The respirator thing always annoys me for some reason. It's a tick. It's a tick that they give characters all the time, and the actors love it. You know, every chance that guy gets, he's like.
They had to. I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like they had to ADR all of his dialogue. I have a feeling he was probably laying it on too thick on the day, and so they needed him to pull it back a bit, much like Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. For you, so where do we go?
Hey, nobody cared who he was till he put on the mask.
Where do we go from here? I don't think there's much. The problem is, like, outside of praising the episode for what it was, I don't think there's a lot going on. It's a very straight ahead plot. You know, it's not. There's not some.
Oh, I think there's so much going on.
There's not. There's not some deep.
Well, not as much as that's coming off though. Oh, baby. Brannon, did you get my notes?
We might as well.
I've got some changes I'd like to make to the show in general. Dad More Guns, but more importantly. Can we get to Paul a terrible haircut and a multitude of different colored tracksuits with just plunging necklines?
They're Rick, for you, the tracksuits are on the house. He does have her dress up in tracksuits. She's no longer, I guess that thing she wore previously was her Vulcan outfit uniform, which never really came into my mind.
She didn't have anything else, so she's just wearing like pajamas now all the time.
Yeah, it's sort of like urban camo design, I would describe it as, and maybe it works.
It looks really comfortable.
Well, now she's got her tracksuits on.
Yeah.
With the zippers and her hair. And
Awful haircut.
Is there anything else that happens before that? Before we get to that, there's nothing, right? We talked about everything else. It's a pretty straight ahead episode,
except for the Terminator 2 dream that Trip has.
Oh yeah,
his sister.
About his sister. I don't think that's worth talking about, but it is very Terminator 2. I guess they do it just to refresh you that Trip has lost somebody, and that's why he's screaming at the Xindi that he goes down to rescue.
I did find something really funny about him standing there screaming at his sister, and his sister's looking at him going like, "What? I can't. What do you say?" As this giant laser beam is destroying everything. But I know it's a dream, obviously. But it just was really funny that she's like, "Oh, Trip, I can't hear anything." You're
to get that surround sound going. I was disappointed that he shows up as a child first, and then they cut away and they cut back, and it's grown Trip. I was upset he was not still wearing child's clothing while he was in the dream. Seems like something that would happen in that situation.
I would have liked it if the child was wearing Enterprise, like a tiny Enterprise suit.
Yeah, a Trip outfit. All right, so we can just get to Paul. Well, I guess the only so the Xindi, they do the escape with the Xindi. The Xindi's like, take me with you. I don't know if I need to explain this, but the whole reason that they're going to this mine is to get this Xindi character. They are paying the alien foreman to take the Xindi and get the information about where their planet is from him. He's very withholding about this information until the jailbreak happens, and then he's like, take me with you and I'll tell you everything. And Archer says, okay. And as they're running away, the Xindi gets shot and killed. And then Archer's like, well, fuck. And they have to fly off. And then they're like, well, what do we do now? Oh, the Xindi gave us, with his dying breath in a scene that you didn't see, he told Phlox where you need to go. Any thoughts about this whole storyline?
I mean, that was super nice of him to do with his last breath after getting, phasered in the chest there to actually give him the coordinates.
Yeah. After being very shady before that, constantly lying about everything, he did the right thing with his dying breath. At least I think.
Kind of hoping that they wouldn't get anything out of him.
Yeah.
Because I thought it would be kind of interesting to see all that effort and all that bloodshed for nothing.
Yeah. That's a very Enterprise approach, right? Like Archer doesn't get anything out of it. They do get something. But they get something in such a way that I'm still not entirely convinced that he gave them good info. Is that the point? Because they fly to that planet that was destroyed, and there's no planet there. Archer has some sort of confusion about why is he telling us this planet is there if it hasn't been there for 100 years. Mm-hmm. I think they're implying that the Temporal War agents have done something in the time that guy got captured, right? I think that's what the implication is.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
The Xindi guys do mention that they flew to the debris field, but they don't. I don't think they mention anything about the temporal future guys or anything.
The Xindi aren't surprised about the planet being destroyed, right? I'm a little confused about what that sequence was all about, because the Xindi gave them the coordinates to what seems like a planet. They go there, the planet's destroyed. Archer has some line that I can't remember specifically what he talks about, but he seems surprised that the guy didn't know about the planet because of the length of time that it was destroyed for. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that means. And then they leave like nothing ever happened. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only what I remember them talking about, that the planet seemed to be where inhabited. They built. It seemed to be inhabited, but it also seemed to be where they built some weapon.
The probe. Whether or not, or the composition of the probe matched what they were making on the planet, something like that. Same kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah, it's all very vague, and there's not really much you can
take away from it.
Glean, from any of it, except that Archer is just. We didn't really talk about Archer. We want to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about him before we get into T'Pol.
He's a bit too angry, I think. I don't know
for 5 months later into this, he's still, God damn it. I think it's just the time that's passed. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a very flat performance to me.
It's Bakula, right? Like, right. I understand making Archer angry. I think making Archer angry is a good look for the character, that he is driven this way. It's a little strange that he has the same performance of anger that he had when he heard about the attack as he does 6 months later when they're in the Expanse, and he's like, I'm still fucking pissed. Bakula is just too flat. Go ahead.
Never forget.
No. the picture of
he's living it.
The picture of the overturned chair from that small earthquake we had like a couple years ago.
Never forget and support the Makos.
So you don't like Angry Archer?
I don't know. I don't like him. It's not that I don't like the concept. It's just that he seems to play every scene the same way. It's like Archer's angry now, so he's got to do the angry thing instead of bringing like a level of I know this is probably an unfair comparison, but when Sisko was angry in the depths of the Dominion War, it's not like he played everything the exact same way and was just like one level of angry all the time. You
got the sense from Sisko he was going to hit the person he was talking to.
Yeah.
Archer doesn't give me that kind of intimidation.
Yeah. Archer just, it feels like a performance.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel it feels like a performance, and it also bums me out because Archer had the makings of such an interesting character. And honestly, it's only one episode, so
yep.
I'm sure they dial stuff in. But
in the context of this episode,
yeah, he has the makings of such an interesting character who's been trial and erroring things.
Airing.
Trial and erring.
That's my favorite sibling of Tori Spelling or whatever. Yeah,
he's been trying this stuff out and he's been learning as he goes along and trying to be a good captain, and now he just seems to be angry about it. And that's why I kind of wanted them to not come away with any information, because I wanted there to be like, okay, he tried the angry thing and it didn't work, so maybe we have to recalibrate exactly how we're handling this, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it still ties into how Archer's been portrayed, right? Which is that he's portrayed as kind of bumbling and not really the best at his job because he's out there so early and he's trying to figure it out as he goes. The show still doesn't really seem to recognize that that's a character flaw, and not in a bad way. Like that's a flaw that Archer has as a character that provides dramatic storytelling for his purposes. They still don't really get that, and the performance doesn't help. I think Archer is just a little bit undermined by... It's really that. It's that the show doesn't want to show him as mistaken, even though so many of his plot lines involve him making mistakes about things. And he just doesn't learn from it. I know that we've said that a whole bunch of times, but here it just feels like... I agree with you that his anger going into a situation probably shouldn't have rewarded him with something, even if it just propels his anger into the next star that they're going to visit. You know, it feels lacking. And I know it's too early for the crew to fight back about this. I don't know if the crew does fight back. I don't know if there's some inner turmoil that goes on, but for this one, I think that you need to, maybe as a pilot for this new season or the first episode, you kind of need to set up I feel they needed to lay the groundwork a little bit better about what the potential downsides of this approach is to things. Not that it has to be the focus, but maybe some character voices something about it. Especially
when the two who get sent on this mission to go get this stuff are angry Archer, and distraught Trip. And it's like, you'd think you would want somebody who's a little bit more level-headed in the mix there, and to kind of handle some of this, so one of them or both of them don't fly off the handle.
Yeah. Well, these guys have been in prison a long time. They haven't seen a Vulcan in a tracksuit with a terrible haircut in 15 years, so you can't send her down there to accomplish this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they got to spelunk down 80 floors. I guess they could send Mayweather and just have him blow out both of his knees.
Is it John Henry, the black man who dug faster than the train?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They should have done that. I'm surprised that hasn't been turned into a movie. That's like a great movie story, you would think, almost, or something. What is he even from? What's that story from? The John Henry story?
I don't know. It's
just American folklore?
Fable, yeah. American folklore, I think.
Huh. Yeah. All right, let's get to T'Pol, because we want to get right on top of that. Yeah, they have her take her shirt off and hold her tits, and then get pressed in the back and go, oh.
I could not fucking
and Chip's going, you like that? And she goes, oh.
I could not fucking believe this scene. not even just that. The fact that fucking Phlox pimps her out.
Set it up, yeah. Well,
yeah,
she's willing.
So weird.
He's not exactly pimping as much as he's the call station that connects the client to the John, basically, or the John to the girl.
Sure.
He works the
front. He's not the madam, but he works at the front desk.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was so weird. And they're playing it for laughs, and it just, I don't know. It's just,
I thought they almost saved it at the end when she stands up and is like, do you think this is sexual? Because up to that point, it's almost, I don't think they save it enough, but I understand if that was the intent of the joke, to be like, you think this is sexy? This is not sexy. This is a very serious Vulcan tradition that you're going through. The problem is that they've done it constantly with her. So it's not like it's the shock of, this is the first time you've seen it and you're like, what the hell's going on in this massage session? She takes her shirt off like that, maybe not completely, but she's been in the decon scenes. The show does this to her. So when they do it again, it just feels like escalation of a bad idea as opposed to a joke that they're making at Trip's expense in this episode, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I don't... The do you think this is supposed to be sexy joke? I don't know if it totally works.
I don't think it does.
The execution by the actors, I think, is fine, but it's like she's wearing like a silk kimono,
yeah,
and asking him to come into her like under false pretenses into her room and offering him like some chamomile tea to relax and sit on her bed with it. Like
takes off the shirt too, and like a fabric that you could. That's not obstructing anything. You know, he can poke her in the back with his thumbs, and she'll feel it through her silk.
And
blouse.
like, you know, I understand the idea of that joke is that the things that she's doing completely asexually, or whatever. But the fact that they shoot it in it like a porno, basically, kind of undermines that joke. Because
it has to be done in a clinical setting, right? That's the problem. It has to be done like in front of flocks or something.
And especially because Trip's trying to leave.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like, I don't know, this isn't really what I'm looking for. And she's just like, come over here and sit down in this bed and touch my back. It's like, ugh. Like it's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Phlox told me you'd be a pussy.
Phlox told me you weren't man enough for this. Oh my God!
It would work better as a joke if it was done in front of the flocks or something. Like if there was like a very clinical setting where she came in and did that, and the joke there is, I still think like that even needs some kind of character relationship, because I think that only works with the character who kind of has been pining after T'Pol, you know, and it's like you're close, but. What feels like sex or the like foreplay to you is just this Vulcan thing that she is doing. You know, there's like a little bit of, there's something there, but these characters don't have that at this point. They're not romantically linked with each other. They frankly don't really get along all that well with each other. I don't know.
Yeah. Is this supposed to be a setup for pushing those two together? Literally,
they do get together. They do become linked. Yeah. I don't know if this is that. I don't think it works as that, so I wouldn't take it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just I actually like looked away a couple times. Because it's just so awkward, and
the full frontal shot of her. Maybe it's not full frontal, but that was really unnecessary.
Doing the hand bra thing, and
I
don't know. It seems. Fairly, that's the thing I think that bothers me is they're trying to have T'Pol play it off as not a big deal, not a sexual thing, but the way that they're shooting it feels so exploitative, and it feels like you just dropped into a vignette in the middle of Porky's in this episode of Star Trek, and it's like,
yeah. I don't understand. We'll have more opportunities to talk about it.
That's why I was telling you need full what? I can't say penetration. There, I said it.
Brannon, this free trial of Skinamax. My God.
Brannon, I love that scene that you wrote. It really. Oh wait, no, I wrote that scene. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Brannon, you ever heard of softcore porn? I think we could air that on Enterprise. I saw no penetration whatsoever.
Listen. I just came from the investors meeting. This UPN network not going so well. I've got a few ideas. I say we just swing for the fence. You know what? Let's get caught trying is what I'm saying.
Let's call it a day there. We'll take a break, play a clip from the episode. We'll read some patron thoughts and give our final thoughts about this season opener called the Xindi.
The doctor injected you with a placebo. He sent you here because he wanted me to persuade you to try Vulcan neuropressure. As I predicted, it was a pointless exercise.
Why didn't he just ask me?
He did. You refused.
Oh, so this whole thing was just a setup.
The doctor knows how intransigent you can be.
Intransigent?
Unwilling to compromise.
I know what it means. But it just so happens it's not true. I'm as willing to compromise as anyone else.
Then take off your shirt.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast today. Much appreciated. Welcome to Season 3 of Enterprise. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show to all our patrons. If you want to support the show, you go to patreon.com/thepensky file, and a couple dollars a month gets you extra stuff. Patreon.com/thepensky file. A couple dollars a month, extra podcasts, extra polls, extra behind-the-scenes stuff. There's the Discord access, blah, blah, blah. We just did GoldenEye. We did Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This month, we're going to be doing what looks like a TOS episode rewatch. And what was the other thing? Iron Man. We'll start an MCU, extremely slow MCU rewatch with Iron Man this month. So
that'll be fun. I don't think I've watched that movie
I haven't seen it in a decade, at least.
Yeah. It's funny because, I mean, he's such a prominent character, obviously, because of everything that came after. But I've maybe seen it once since it was in theaters, I think. So that'll be kind of fun to go back and check out.
Yeah, I think the only thing I've seen is I showed Alistair the scene of him with the original Iron Man suit breaking out of that cave or whatever. Cool. I think that's the only thing that I've seen of it.
We get to see the original James Rhodes with Terrence Howard.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ceremoniously. You know, he was the highest paid actor on that movie.
Was he? That's peak him, I suppose. Well, how many movies was he in? 2? 3?
Just that one.
Just that one. Okay.
Yeah. Then they recast him with Don Cheadle.
All right. So if you want to hear our thoughts about Cheadle replacing, is it Terrence Howard? Is it Terrence Howard or am I getting? Yeah. All right. We'll have that. Iron Man, we're going to be talking about this month on Patreon, and a Star Trek revisit of The Ultimate Computer from TOS. So thank you very much. And a special thank you to our $10 patrons who are Ben Douglas, Tark Latif, Joint Mango, Kyle Barrett, Mike Burnett, Michael Pond, Matt Ross, Andrew Charlock, Samuel Custer, Cardinal Doomsday, Matt Cutler, Nick Sergi, Rim Santos, Sean, Christian Pouch, Bradley Killens, Dwayne Hackett, Darth Moss, Kevin Reyes, Jordan Cooper, Voltage Hero, Russell Elwich, HH28, Stephen Minton, Derek Zajac, Paul Roscoe, Jacob123, Poindexter G, Nick the Rat, Eric Santuan, Kevin Lowry, Captain Brazen, Jakey's Gamer, Grappler, John Zorn, Patrick Seba, Corey Martin, William Scheisler, Rayhan Jaffer, Soylent Blue, Zane Majors, Dave Davies, Retail, Olivier Pardue, Worf's Tandy Brown Dix, Tom Hickey, and Jose Hunters, EWNF Remixes. Thank you very much for joining us on this journey to the Delphic Expanse. All right, Clay, patron thoughts. If you're a patron, you can leave your thoughts about upcoming episodes. This one is for the Xindi, which is annoying because when I control F and go through this, there's like a million mentions of Xindi, but it's only in the titles that I'm interested in, and it's really distracting. So I'm going to have to call them something else. Jakey's Gamer says, the Xindi, a fairly average action episode altogether with an escape plot. Excuse me, it's late, my brain is dying. And the scene in T'Pol's quarters is a little cringeworthy. Brannon! Still, they do some decent world building here with the introduction of the Xindi Council, the anomalies, and the Makos.
That goddamn voice is going to be my legacy, isn't it?
We still have to make the t-shirts of him, his face with just saying Brannon. And I think the episode sets up the chess pieces fairly well for the season. Speaking of the Makos, they said it took 7 weeks to get to the Expanse, and they've been searching inside it for weeks as well. So I'm not sure I buy Hoshi just now meeting them for this first time in the mess hall.
That's a good point.
Got to get the exposition in somehow, I suppose. 3 out of 5.
She's a bookworm. She keeps to herself.
She's been reviewing their wiki entries, obviously, has to memorize all that. It is true. The timeline is just weird. I understand they have to do it because it's supposed to be very, very far away. I guess
weird. Sorry, I was going to say, do you find it weird that they didn't introduce them in the last episode?
It was weird, yeah. Did they have the concept of them in the last episode? I couldn't remember. They must have, because they don't introduce them here as anything other than these are the guys we talked about before.
Yeah, I feel like they do mention them. But
yeah, it is weird
wrong.
You don't see them. I think that's it's obviously just like it's an old thing of the season ending into a new season where I feel the journey to the Expanse should have been a couple episodes of this season.
Yeah,
you
probably.
know? Yeah, but...
Although, I mean, the Expanse is so big.
We got time.
What? Like, even at the end of the episode, Mayweather's like, where do you want to go now? And he's like...
Deeper.
Further. Just keep going straight.
No more questions, Mayweather. Thank you, Jake Easy. Give it a 3 out of 5. Let's see here. So now I have to click a whole bunch of times. There we go. Rayo says, The Xindi, one of Brannon Braga's passions is his trashy pulp sci-fi, and you get the sense that he had a lot of fun with it on Voyager. Unfortunately, a lot of the passion has been absent from Enterprise, I assume due to having to write and rewrite so many scripts to the point of exhaustion. For this episode, he has recreated a diabolical mining foreman armed with a menacing 1930s microphone, a prop that would not be out of place in a Captain Proton holodeck episode.
I did also notice the microphone. I thought it was kind of strange too. But
consequently, though, the fiendish sci-fi throwback villain ends up being overshadowing the Xindi's big mystery, and unfortunately, Braga takes the trashiness way too far by having Jolene Blaylock stripped nude for what is effectively softcore pornography. No problem with that. The sense of misery on Jolene Blaylock's face when she's topless does drag down the episode. What is that joke? I never noticed what's the thing from Clerks, Chasing Amy? I never noticed the disinterested look in their eyes. That's one of my favorite lines from that movie. He gives it a 3.5 out of 5. Thank you very much. Click, click, click. Point XG says, the Xindi new theme song remix. I think I like the old one better. Speaking of introducing new things, that's what this episode does. It gives us 5 new different flavors of bad guys. The Commandos were inserted into the storyline just so that they could be introduced to the audience, but it's a good first impression. We get a good mystery with the blown-up Xindi planet. Definitely a promising start to a season-long arc. But hey, they still have to cram in more pointless Jolene Blaylock ogling scenes where they're sitting around topless holding her boobies and showing us her O-face. They do. No one missed that scene. Matt Ross says, considering there was always the Romulan war story, I never understood why they avoided it and why there were not more patrol ships or Makos on ships to begin with. The most interesting thing is the evil federation of the Xindi Council. Archer's change to angry is a bit too much. His jaw is so clenched, I swear you can hear his teeth grinding. As to the evil mining group, it seemed rather generic evil. It's odd that it seems like Earth has 2 starships and nothing else. 3 T'Pol massages out of 5. Latte Librarian says, of course, the least humanoid Xindi is the most evil one. That's the bug one, I'm assuming. Well, the manatees are I guess bugs are less human than manatees. T'Pol gets a semi-nude scene too. Small pajamas, 2 new uniforms with deep V-necks, and new eyebrows. Amy mentioned the eyebrows too. Women love noticing eyebrows. I've never noticed eyebrows in my life.
What are they like when they drive, Wes?
I don't know. They're probably looking at their eyebrows. Amy mentioned the eyebrows too. It's interesting. I've never I believe Latte Librarian is female. I've never heard a guy mention eyebrows before. It's really strange. Aside from the obvious exposition, the cartoonishly evil mining operation, and the vomit-inducing massage scene, this was an okay episode. 2 placebo injections out of 5. And then Kyle Barrett says, Enterprise has been in the Expanse for 6 weeks with nothing to show for it, but maybe they would have found the Xindi already if they hadn't stopped for that haircut. I think this episode makes a wise decision by keeping the core story of Archer trying to make a no rough stuff type deal quite simple to allow ample time to introduce several of the season's new elements. A fun detail is that Idris Elba's character from Beyond, Balthazar Edison, says he was a former Mako who fought the Xindi, and because this season is the only known conflict with the Xindi, he's likely one of the Makos on board Enterprise throughout the season, albeit unseen. We also get the debut of the new command center, which is basically just a wall of 32-inch plasmas. You get a schematic of a Terrellium D mining facility up on that baby, and you are seriously looking at that schematic of a Terrellium D mining facility. 4 out of 5. Good peep show joke.
Part of I hope the Xindi turn out to be better, because learning that Idris Elba's character was one of the guys who fought the Xindi sounds a lot cooler until you see the bug guy. And then
Kirk, we repelled slowly down into caves.
You don't understand. There was a bug guy and a werewolf guy.
One of them was in a tank of water, Kirk.
Like nothing you've ever seen or experienced. When you are Federation.
I hope so. I hope the bug guy bites a head off of one of the Makos or something just to make Balthazar Edison's sacrifice seem like it was something more impressive. That's it for the Xindi.
I just want to say, speaking of haircuts, I feel like I've seen pictures of T'Pol with really long hair.
Yes.
Is the idea that she just stopped cutting her hair now that she's not
a Vulcan anymore?
Not a Vulcan. She's just like, she's off to college now and she just lets her hair grow. Is that the deal?
I think she has long hair.
Because that haircut is terrible.
I might be wrong.
It's like a 7. A 7 on the Kira scale.
7 out of 9. 7. I think she has long hair in their Mirror Universe episodes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think that's what it is. I might be wrong, and she might grow it out, but I'm pretty sure that's when she has very long hair, like shoulder length.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for Xindi. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being patrons, and thank you for leaving comments. Clay, on a scale of 1 to 5, what are you going to give this season opener?
I think I'll give it a 3. I think it's fine. I did want to ask you, because we talked a little bit in the last episode about this being the same kind of retooling, repositioning. Now you're speaking my language. As season 3 of Discovery.
Sure.
How do you feel? How successful do you feel this is? Or I guess which one do you feel is more successful in doing that? If you had to compare them,
I think this works better. This one hits a solid single, and Discovery doesn't. Discovery just swings hard and misses, I think. It's a little bit unfair because I know Discovery's full season there. I might have been better just based on the pilot of each one, or like the first episode of each season. But I think that I just think that like the stakes of the Enterprise one in the plot is not exactly exciting, but it's trackable to me. And it's not It's also not promising huge things to me. You know, Archer's not like the Xindi aren't destroying the universe, you know. It's a race against time to find the Xindi before the star absorbs the entire universe and time stops or whatever. The stakes are a little bit smaller, and they feel just more Star Trek-y than Discovery's version of stakes do, and so I think it's a success just based on that.
Yeah, I feel like the successes of it are what you're talking about, where it's not promising the universe, and what it is giving you, it's doing fairly well. However, I do feel like one of the things I thought the Discovery season opener actually did do was kind of lay the groundwork for what they were going to be going after in the season. Like, you got the burn right away. You got the dissolution of the Federation right away. You kind of got an idea what direction it was going to go, more or less.
You don't think they did that? I mean, I would argue that the Xindi are that, and you get that scene of the weird physics anomalies that they keep running into where the things keep flying back and forth in the shuttle bay. That's not great, but I feel they're just continuing stressing the point that the Xindi are there, they're the bad guys, and this is a weird area of space where weird shit happens all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, is that it's just they're doing fewer things, because ultimately what you're getting out of this episode is the setup is we're trying to find the Xindi, full stop.
Yeah.
And that's fine, I guess.
It also, it's a backbone for it's not a tremendous leap from what Enterprise was doing. Like, the search for the Xindi is going to have them have an adventure every single episode in a way that Discovery kind of did it, but it feels more like it's very similar to what Enterprise was doing its entire history. And it doesn't feel non-Star Trek-y to me.
And I think where Discovery gets in its own way is, and where this is actually more successful, is by having something that's not totally pinned down. It's just like, like I said, it's like they're going after the Xindi. That leaves you open for more possibilities than what they did on Discovery, which was they gave you like 3 very specific things that they were going to be dealing with.
Yep.
And then you're kind of like locked into paying those things off.
Yes.
And ultimately not.
Right. No time to develop ideas slowly and see if they are worth doing or anything like that.
Yeah. Like if Discovery season 3 and the end of the episode, it's all about, it's like, oh, the Federation is broken up. Let's find out why. Okay. Well, you've got the world in front of you. You can do whatever you want. But with those other things that they layer on top of it.
Yeah.
It makes things, it kind of limits you as far as what you're going to do. Whereas I think here, I think the only downside to what they're doing here is that when you get to the end of this episode, and it is so hard to track exactly what position you're left in, That's a little bit of a downer. But yeah, ultimately, I would say I think this is probably a little successful of a repositioning, because even outside of the things they're after, I think they reposition the characters pretty effectively as to what their mindset of mind is, mindset, what their mindsets are, and the new inter-ship conflicts that might arise and stuff. So I think they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 as well. But I think it's a good 3 out of 5. Like I think that the changes it makes to the show are actually positives in the long run for most things. I like the background story. I like having a new villain. I like the fact that the characters are different a little bit from what they've been. Like they at least, even if it's all that they're all just angry, there's at least something that's not just bland Hoshi sitting at her desk and Reed doing whatever. That's all positives. And I think just for your comparison against Discovery, one reason that there's a difference there is that I think we do have to be conscious of the fact, or cognizant, or however you want to say it, there's going to be 24 episodes of this. So it's not Discovery's 12 or 13 where things have to happen a little bit quicker. And don't mistake that for saying that like it's just better with less. It's just I think that they have to space out their information pacing slowly on this to get through it in a way. That's about it. But yeah, I like this one. I give it a 3. I'm happy with the direction of the show, and I think I mentioned it last time. If it had been another season of season 2, I'd be like, this is bad at this point. Like I don't know if I could do 24 episodes of that. So I'm really glad that there's at least something else in the background that makes this different, and I feel like it gave us something different to talk about on the podcast to this point. So I think that that's a positive too.
Yeah, something definitely needed to change, and I think it's. Unless they go completely off the rails as far as the tone of the show, I think it's probably only going to be a positive. I hope anyway.
Yeah. All right, we'll take it there. Thanks, guys, very much for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Patreon.com/ThePensky File if you want to support us. Patreon.com/ThePensky File. It's much appreciated. We put up a ton of stuff on Patreon. It's like, if you think you're getting a decent amount just on the YouTube, it's like double on the Patreon. So it's something worth considering. Thank you very much. Clay, do you have anything you want to say?
We are off. Badass is still off. We've got Cabin in the Woods coming up next, I believe, for Rotten Horror, which is, are we doing these Star Treks once a week?
Yeah. So this is,
so that'll
next
be
week. Next
week
is Rotten Horror. Yeah.
Next week will be Cabin in the Woods. And we've got this month on Patreon, we'll be doing Friday the 13th, part 3, and Amanda and I will be watching it in 3D.
Oh, so nice. Who has the 3D TV? Do you have a 3D TV? Oh, nice.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things. I've probably talked about this before. I got a DVD player or a Blu-ray player, I don't know, about 10 years ago. Actually, probably more, 12 years ago at this point. It's a completely separate story where I bought it specifically so I could use it on a TV that didn't use HDMI, that used the component cables. But when I got it, I hooked it up. It didn't come through HD, and then I looked it up and it's like, oh yeah, it actually doesn't allow you to play HD video from the Blu-ray through
those. Yep.
What the fuck is the point of having them? But anyway,
you're in that Wanda Maximoff era of Cold War DVDs, players with component cables.
I was looking it up, and the thing that I was reading was like, they did it to prevent people from ripping Blu-ray DVDs, Blu-rays. But the person said, if you were to be a person to try to do that, you would get laughed out of like the pirate circle because nobody does that.
Sure.
Like it was a protection that was not necessary because people don't really do it. But it was also a 3D Blu-ray player, which I didn't give a shit about. I didn't have a 3D Blu-ray, didn't have a 3D TV. And then we moved in here, we got a 3D TV, which was after the 3D TV wave was over, so that like wasn't even advertised. It just also happened to be a 3D TV.
Sure, yeah. Just throw it in.
Yeah,
sweeten the deal.
And I never used it. We've been here for 7 years. I've never used the 3D function. Bought the Universal Monsters series a couple months ago, and it came with Creature from the Black Lagoon, which you could watch in 3D if you had the TV and the player. So I threw it on, and it was awesome.
Oh, really?
Like I never would go out of my way, and I still wouldn't, to buy a 3D TV and a 3D Blu-ray player specifically to watch 3D movies.
Yeah.
But now that I can, super cool.
Sure.
Especially that one, because it's like, a black and white 3D movie that looks good is really cool to see.
It's kind of it's
all
unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got the underwater element kind of like layers things really interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after I got the Friday the 13th set, I was like, it comes with the 3D version. And I was like, well.
How many of them are 3D?
Just that one.
Just that one.
Yeah. If we're going to do it, we may as well do it right and watch it in 3D. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's you have to record your podcast in 3D.
3D sound.
Stereoscopic.
Wasn't that that was a thing for a while? Wasn't there like high definition Blu-ray sound was a thing?
Yeah, there's so many different.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, there's so many different.
You could buy a disc that was Blu-ray sound or something.
Yeah, there's just so many marketing names for sound. There's like the Dolby Digital, Dolby Plus, Axios, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just it's 196 kilobits per second CD rip, and they'll be like, "This is high def audio." That's it, guys. Thank you very much. You can check out the Patreon. Clay's 3D podcast will be out on it soon. It's setting new markers for quality of podcasting.
Your headphones have to have one blue speaker and one red speaker in order to hear it in the full 3D surround sound.
And we'll be back with more Mako action, more Vulcan massages, and more Archer getting angry about stuff next time. With the next episode is Anomaly. So thanks very much, guys, for listening. We'll see you next time.